Hey guys, this is Hazard 502 and welcome back to another video. I've got something that I'm really excited to talk about today, and that is this fixed blade right here. This is the Cudeman Sanabria by Cudeman Knives of Spain. So if some of you don't know, Cudeman is a knife manufacturer that is based in Spain, and they have some of their cutting cutlery available to be purchased here and used within Canada. I'm going to leave in the description a link in the description below on where I got this one. I picked this one up at bushcraftcanada.com, and it's, I believe, the only place in Canada that I've found that you could either get Cudeman knives within Canada, as well as Bushcraft Canada has a really large selection and variety of Cudeman knives available as well. So I'll have that link for you below to go check it out. For now, let's have a close look at this. So the overall length of this knife is 9 1/4 inches. The blade length is 4.5 inches. The spine thickness just ahead of the handle here is 4.2 millimeters. And the blade height at its tallest point is 1 3/8 inches tall. As far as the handle goes, the handle is 4 11/16 inches long from the beginning to the butt end. The handle width is 0.9 inches wide, and the handle height at its tallest point, which I measured in the middle here, in the middle there, is 1.1 inches. This knife has what Cudeman calls, and let us read it together because I'm not very good at pronouncing this, molybdenum vanadium steel. This is a stainless steel, and it has a Rockwell hardness of around 56. The blade profile is a high saber grind, and the blade shape is a spear point. And of course you can see along the spine of the knife there's a scallop. Let me just move that up. There's a scallop here for a thumb rest with some very mild jimping at the top there. The handle material is very nice. It is a burgundy burlap micarta, and you can see that it is held together with 3 stainless pins, and one of them has been drilled out there to be used as a lanyard hole. You can also see on the other side here that there's a bow drill divot included as well for some of those extra bushcrafty tasks. And on the marking on the blade here, you can see that they have like a witch's hat, just for a play on words. But this is considered I believe, a bushcraft knife. The design and the specifications and the overall shape and design really lend itself to that kind of use. Let's talk about the sheath that you get with this knife. So this comes with a very nice brown leather sheath. You can see the Cudeman symbol stamped right on the front there. It is a fold over design with double stitching and 6 rivets. So a very heavy duty built, if doodly is a word, but I'm going to use it. Very heavy duty built sheath with nice, thick, high quality leather. And you can see I have some paracord strung through here, just for extra secure belt carry. You can see there. Normally, as you can see on the back here, this had stitching to attach the fold over belt loop, and the stitching throughout this entire sheath is really high quality. However, I made the mistake of keeping this on my belt one too many times when I got in and out of the half ton, and when I sat down in my camping chair or at my picnic table, and eventually over time the torsion from me sitting down eventually popped the stitching. So it felt completely secure until that point, and I would most certainly call that user error on my part. So what I've had to do was I decided to rivet the fold over belt loop instead of trying to restitch it myself. Because the leather is really thick, I thought I would struggle quite a bit, so then I took a felt pad glued it on the inside just to protect the knife from scraping on the inside of the rivets. But if you get it yourself, do expect the stitching to be high quality and very strong. And that's part of the reason why I had this on here, because before I riveted it, I had used this to help keep it on my belt before all of the stitching had come loose, before I had a chance to fix it up. But beautiful brown leather, high quality leather as well. I'm really happy with this. One of my favorite parts of anything, if you can recall, is a low carry. So once the knife is all the way into the sheath, you can see that your belt line is going to be right here. So it's going to be well below your hip and not intrude in movement at all. Sitting down, hiking, climbing, this stays out of the way and carries very comfortably up against your hip. If I do the retention test, I am going to get it to pop out, because I've had this knife for probably 2 years at this point, and so this is really broken in. And if I was concerned about the retention being not to my satisfaction, I can definitely form this and tighten this up, which is an option for anybody who has a leather sheath. When it came out of the box, I was able to shake it without the knife going anywhere, and even if I press fit it in and I try and make it fall out now, it's going to take a lot of work. So excellent retention, high quality sheath, and they did a really good job with it. Let's talk about the blade performance with this Mollyvan stainless steel. What you're going to know about the overall construction of this particular model is that it is very, very well built and very tank-like. The thickness behind the edge is 0.036 inches. So it is actually quite stout behind the cutting edge itself. So what that means is this is a very thick and beefy boy. For a knife that is designed and encouraged to be used for detail work, it's not as slicey as I would like it or expect it to be. Basically what that means is if that you're going to get any kind of cuts that you're going to be happy with, or any kind of precision cuts, to be able to get the wideness behind the actual cutting bevel to dig in, you're going to have to apply, I think, a little bit more pressure than you would with other knives that are designed for this kind of purpose. So just bear that in mind. Will this blade cut? Well, most certainly it will, and it does a pretty good job at it, but it does require a little more effort on the user's end to be able to get it to dig into material, because of how stout the steel is behind the cutting edge there. And I do apologize about the glare. The Rockwell hardness, having been 56 give or take, would normally tell me that the blade is strong, flexible, durable, but it doesn't hold an edge for as long as other blades with a higher Rockwell hardness. But what I have found with whatever they've done to heat treat this particular steel, this has an extremely high edge retention. And I find that the strength of the cutting edge is some of the best I've ever used, in fact. I believe, like I mentioned, I've had this knife for a couple of years, and this has been my main belt carry knife for camping trips that have lasted up to 2 weeks long, and this is my main knife that I use day to day. And after 2 years of use, I have yet to sharpen it. This will still take a piece of paper and slice through it. I've done like chopping with it, I've done wood processing with it, I have done food prep with it and other camp chores, and the edge has still stayed usable and serviceable. So no resharpening yet. That's one of the fewer knives that I've owned that has been able to do that. So whatever special sauce they've poured into this is working out really well. Also, given that this is stainless, I have yet to see any hint of any kind of staining or rusting on this blade whatsoever. I've used it for weeks at a time, like I mentioned, and I've never even wiped down the blade other than to get off just crud that I just don't want to sit on there or doesn't look good. So the stainless aspect of it, including the stainless pins and the fact that this is a through stainless construction has really held up to being a very high quality stainless steel. And even if we look at the blade up close, if I can get the lighting correctly, you can see there's zero pitting on there. There are zero rusting stains or spots on it whatsoever. And like I said, I've not done a thing to protect it from any water penetration, and it's held up excellent. One thing I did forget to mention about the sheath is that at the very bottom it does have a drain hole there, so if you do get this wet, water has a way to escape. Another thing about this one, given that it is a spear point design, which means that the tip of the blade lines up right down the middle with the entire knife, which would make it good for drilling with it and digging. The tip itself is quite stout. I don't find that this is very handy for actual piercing or penetrating because of that. So it is extremely strong, a lot of steel carried right out to the end there, you can see. So it's going to be good for digging or prying, but not so much precision piercing. So just keep that in mind if this is a model that appeals to you or has your interest. Okay, so let's take a moment to roll in a few size comparisons that I have here. First comparison is my Tops Bracamo. This one measures, again, the Sanabria is 9 1/4 inches long, and the Bracamo is 10 inches end to end. And another one that we're going to roll in here is my Condor straight back knife, and this one is 10 1/4 inches long overall. And if I'm going to range these in thickness behind the edge, top is the thinnest, bottom is the thickest. I have it written in my notes here, just bear with me for a second. So the Cudeman is 0.036 inches behind the cutting edge, the Bracamo is 0.027, and the Condor straight back knife is 0.019. So as far as sliciness goes, according to the numbers, this would be the most, this would be the least. I can tell you for sure, easily, the the Condor SBK, as you can see all used and dirty, is by far the more slicey razor precision cutter out of the group. And out of these two, and if you've seen my Bracamo review, you'll already know that I don't find this to be the greatest of precision cutters because of how thick it continues to get after the cutting edge up into this modified Scandi. Even though the Sanabria is thicker behind the cutting edge, because the blade itself stays thinner up to its flat, I do find this to be slightly better in cutting than the Bracamo, even though technically the numbers may say otherwise. And perhaps my favorite part of this knife would be the handle. And I know you may be thinking to yourself, well, if the blade isn't the favorite part of the knife, then is it even that useful to you? Well, the blade itself is useful for sure, and I've actually gotten rid of other knives in my collection where I found that the handle ergonomics, the material, the traction, some of those aspects weren't meeting my expectations or what I wanted out of a knife, and I've moved them on. This one, though, is a beautiful thing. So almost an inch wide, over an inch tall, which provides a very rounded and hand-filling handle. And one of my favorite parts, and there are many, is that Cudeman has done an amazing job radiusing this handle, so that no matter what angle you look at it, there is smooth transitions from the side to the bottom to the top, and moving forward here into this forward finger choil. This thing is a beauty to hold on to. One thing I will mention about these extra beaks and hills that they've machined into the handle is that my hands are a large size, and your mileage may vary with this particular knife, but I find that if I grip back in the rearmost position, it feels somehow unnatural and cramped, I would say. It almost feels like I gotta like squeeze my fingers together to get them into the lower portion, or the back portion of the grip. So I don't typically use it this way. Of course, if you're going to do a little bit of light chopping, which I have, the rear beak does provide a nice amount of traction, and especially if you use a lanyard to go around your wrist for light chopping. In that sense, yeah, that works. But otherwise, for normal expected use, I find it comfortable and completely natural to choke up, so your index finger is landing in the finger choil and your thumb just so naturally goes into this valley where that really light jimping is. So I do enjoy that quite a bit. So because the handle design I think is specific, I do find that your hand does lock into this knife very well. It's shaped in the sense that if you are bearing down on it, it's not easily going to twist in your hand, even though it is rounded. I feel like there is enough height and enough traction points in this that it's going to stay orientated in your hand in the correct way. And you know, with your hand in this, and your finger in the front finger choil, pardon me, feels the most natural, usable, and balanced. Even when I'm choked back, for some reason the knife just feels out of balance and not as nimble as I would like it to be. Having said that, though, because I find personally that, you know, holding the knife in the most forward position is the best and most natural, I do feel like there is a limited grip options or varieties and comfort levels with this. It kind of leads you to hold the knife in one way, which is a very comfortable way, but I feel limiting. So I don't find this to be a versatile handle, even though it is beautiful and well crafted. It kind of lends to one grip style, and so that's just something to consider when you're thinking about this blade. Alright, so my conclusions on this knife is that as far as the blade goes, the performance is good, and it's not great, but it is most certainly above adequate. Keep in mind that the thickness behind the cutting edge is a little bit thicker above average, and that you might have to put a little bit more weight and force into your cutting tasks. That just might help you connect and have a better understanding of how the knife works. But I would say overall, cutting performance, it's good. Handle comfort is beautiful, especially when you're choked all the way forward into that finger choil. I love it. It's probably one of the most comfortable handles I've ever held. Having said that, it does limit the variety of comfortable grips you can have because of the shape of the handle, so something to keep in mind. And overall fit and finish of this Cudeman Sanabria knife is an easy 10 out of 10. I'm really glad that I gave the Cudeman brand a chance to see how it would perform and how it would fit with my lifestyle and the tasks I want to put this to use for. And this has most certainly met and exceeded quality, control, fit, and finish from any knife manufacturer I've held to date. So I would easily give this a score 10 out of 10 for fit and finish. I don't usually score knives, but very impressed with this one. Alright guys, that's it for today. Appreciate you dropping by, and we'll catch you next time.